All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, Rikshan.
Okay, great. So yesterday we were taking a look at the structure of HL7 message, right? So in today's session, we'll continue taking a look at structure of HL7 message, and we'll also take a look at the main concept that which is used or based out of which HL7 messaging has been created, right? So we'll go ahead and begin with that, and then we will take a deeper dive into what are the various message types that we have and how they are related to the real-time events in real world, right? So yesterday we discussed that HL7 message is has event-driven messaging methodology, right? So whenever any event happens in the real-time world, that's where we usually go ahead and understand that that event has been concluded and data pertaining to that event should be sent from one system to another, right? That's what event-driven messaging methodology means. For example, if you talk about uh, patient registration, patient walks in and gets himself registered with that hospital, right? So the receptionist would go ahead and capture all the data information like uh, they will capture details like patient name, date of birth, gender, all the other basic administrative details that are required from the patient are collected, and they click on save. Once they click on save in the application, that's the beginning of that saving of that event, and then beginning of data transaction or data transfer that happens from PM system to the EHR system, right? So that's where all begins, and then the data is sent over from PM to EHR. So this event has been concluded, which is nothing but registering a patient. Then after that, there will be another event called scheduling, where the patient's appointment will be scheduled, right? That is another event. So that way, there are series of events that are happening, and those series of events will be are the base for which the HL7 message gets generated. That is the reason it is called as event-driven messaging mechanism or messaging methodology, right? So yesterday we looked at this example, HL7 example. So from this HL7 example, we understood that every HL7 message has structure, and this structure follows a convention of having a series of segments, and these segments will go ahead and have fields. Each segment is divided into fields. Fields are divided into components. There is further classification as well, but we will halt there where it says segments and fields and components, right? So let's understand how do we go ahead and read through the HL7 message first. Okay, if you have or if you are given with any HL7 message, let's see how to read them. And then we will jump into all the various events that we have in the real-time world. So I'm setting the language to JavaScript because it just beautifies it. It's not JavaScript actually. So uh, it will give you clear differentiation of segments, fields, components, and all. That's the reason I set it to that language. But don't think that this is JavaScript. All right. So here in this particular HL7 message, we see that we have segments, right? There are 5 segments altogether. Each segment always begins with a 3-letter acronym. Okay. And this 3-letter acronym will tell us what kind of segment it is. Every acronym will talk about what kind of data it's going to carry. For example, if you talk about PID, PID stands for patient identification. Here you will find every detail about how to identify a patient or anything that is related to identifying a certain person or certain patient. Okay. So if you see PID 5, you have patient name, you have patient's date of birth, you have patient's gender, and a lot more other data elements pertaining to the patient. Okay. Now, whenever you want to read an HL7 message, first you would call out the segment name. So here the segment name is PID. And with yesterday's session, we understood that every segment is divided into fields. So what is a field and what is a field separator? Anything that is held between two pipes is called as a field. So this is a pipe, this is a pipe. Between two pipes, there is a field. This is one field. This is second field. This is third field. This is fourth field. This is fifth field, and so on. Okay, and this is called as field positioning or field sequencing. So every field is nothing but the content that you have between two pipes, and every field has its own number, which is nothing but field positioning. So if I'm reading through the HL7 message, I will first call out the segment name and then call out the field number. And every field has its own dedicated data element. What do I mean by that? So if you see here, this is nothing but a field which is holding or which is carrying patient information, patient name. Okay, and if I count through the field numbers, this is nothing but PID 5. So this is field number 1, field number 2, field number 3, 4, and 5. So I can say that PID 5 is nothing but patient name. Okay, and then you have PID 7. Ignore this one. This is nothing but mother's maiden name. So here, this is field number 7. So PID dot 7 is nothing but patient's date of birth. Next, you have PID 8, which is nothing but patient's gender value. All right. So here we are seeing that every field is carrying some sort of data element or some sort of information related to the patient, right? So there are a lot more data elements in PID segment. If you see, there is address, there is phone number, and there is a lot other information as in when you go through the entire segment. How many fields a segment can have? Every segment has its own dedicated number of fields and it is dependent on the specification. HL7 has released a specification where it says what all fields a PID segment can have. PID segment in version 2.8 has 40 fields. Okay. So now let us dig a little more deeper. If you see the name, you have few components within the name. Okay. Now we understood that every HL7 message structure has segments. Segments can be divided into fields. Fields are again divided into components. Okay. So fields are divided into components. What are these components? Now there will be few data elements within an HL7 field which can be further broken down for clarification. Now when you say or talk about name, name is a combination of multiple parts, right? You will have last name, you will have first name, you will have middle initial. There may be a prefix, suffix like juniors, seniors. There may be a prefix like doctor, right? So name is not just one single element, it is a combination of multiple components. So HL7 should also give us the flexibility to go ahead and make sure that these differentiations are in place. That is the reason not all fields, but few fields, wherever HL7 has felt the necessity of breaking it down, it has broken it down into components. Okay, instead of saying, let's say if there is no component aspect here, so my name is Dixon, George. So this is my first name, this is my last name. I can put it this way, right? But how do I differentiate which one is last name and which one is first name? So to have the differentiation, what they have done is they have said, let us break it down. And each component is separated by a component separator called as cap or caret. Okay, so this caret differentiates or separates every component within a field if the field is divided into multiple components. And every component has its own sequence number, the way we had for field sequencing. So this is component number one. This is component number two. This is component number 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 components in this particular HL7 field. Of course, first 2 are populated, rest of the 4 are empty. Okay, if it is empty, you don't need to specify that. That's okay even if you don't specify that. But let's put one more here. Okay, so here we can see that we have the 3 components. So as per HL7 specification, PID 5.1 is nothing but patient's last name. So what is 5 here? 5 is nothing but the field. Then again, you are further classifying it into components. So you have to provide the component number. So this is component number 1. So field number 5, component number 1. Okay, this is component number 1. And that is nothing but the last name of the patient. Then you have PID 5.2, which is nothing but first name of the patient. And these placeholders are dedicated. Anywhere in the world, PID 5.1 is last name. Anywhere in the world, PID 5.2 is first name. You cannot change it. I cannot change it. No one can change it. It is defined and it is a specification, standard specification that is released by HL7. All that we need to do is refer it and follow what they have, follow the structure they have published. Okay. Then next we have middle initial. So PID dot 5.3 is nothing but middle initial. All right. Okay. So this is middle initial and you have further classification into into this field called PID5. Okay. There are many more components, but we don't need to essentially know all of them right away. But we just need to focus and understand how to read an HL7 message. So this is how you read any HL7 message. You call out the segment name, you call out the field number, you call out the component number. There is further classification where you have something called a subcomponent, but not important to know about that right now. Okay. So PID7 is date of birth, PID8 is gender. So these are the fields that are not broken down. So that is the reason these are single fields. They don't have components. They are just plain one field without having components in them. Who defines it? How is it decided? That and all we will see when we get into the details of the HL7 message structure uh, and look at certain message types like ADT, SIO, and so on. Okay. So that's how you read the HL7 message. We will further see what these segments are, what these fields are in the upcoming sessions where we get into the detailed structure of various message types. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. I'm not hearing anything. So let us go ahead and jump into uh, the various message types or event types. So now we have discussed about how trigger event works. So I told you that message or HL7 messaging is nothing but event driven messaging methodology, right? So where you say or where you define that HL7 messages are triggered based on an event or sent based on an event. Patient got registered, an HL7 message gets generated, and that will be sent to the EHR system. Patient has an appointment scheduled, the HL7 message gets generated, and that will be sent to the destination system, which is nothing but EHR system, right? So in this way, there will be event that will happen and a message gets generated. These are called as trigger events. Why are these called as trigger events? Because these events are sending the data to destination system, right? So as they are sending the data or triggering the data to destination system, they are called as trigger events. Okay. So patient admission is an example, or the next one is doctor scheduling a lab test. Doctor places an order, and that order information, once he saves it, that order information will be sent over from EHR to lab system, right? So once he sends the data from EHR to lab system, labs will be able to go ahead and start performing the test once they receive the samples and all, right? So that is another event. In this way, there are series of events that will take place in the hospital. Patient gets registered, patient has an appointment scheduled, and observation is requested, which is nothing but a lab order. And then patient might get admitted, patient might get vitals checked every day if he is an inpatient. So if you are an outpatient, when you go to the patient, even before you meet the doctor, even before you meet the doctor, there will be a nurse who will go ahead and take your basic vitals, right? Like your blood pressure, your diabetes level, if there is any, and then they will also capture your height, weight, and if there are any symptoms. So they will capture all the basic information of your vitals, right? That is also an event, but it is not a trigger event because when vital information is captured, it is saved into the EHR system. Do we need to send that vital information anywhere? No, we don't need to. So as it is not sending the data anywhere, or that events related data is captured and saved in the EHR system, but it is not sent anywhere, that is not called as a trigger event. Okay, there will be many events that are happening. So the entire hospital workflow can be divided into series of events, and these events will go ahead and uh, make sure that few of them are trigger events where the data is sent from one system to another. Okay. So now let us see what are the various categories where the data gets generated and will be transacted from one system to another. Okay. First one is nothing but registration. So in registration, there are many events that will happen. Okay. What are they? Number one, patient can be registered. Patient's information can be updated if he is already there in the system. right? Patient can be admitted to the hospital, patient can be discharged from the hospital or transferred to a different department or a different hospital, right? So these are series of events that will take place. All right. So all of these will fall under registration category. And then you have something called as scheduling, where the patient's information is, patient's appointments are scheduled, his lab tests are scheduled, any other CT scans, MRIs, or many things can be scheduled under scheduling category. Then you have labs. Labs are nothing but doctor is placing an order, and that order information will be sent over from EHR system to the lab system. Then doctor may prescribe few medicine based on the treatment that he is providing to the patient. So those medicine information or treatment prescription information can be sent from EHR system to the pharmacy system. And then finally, once everything is done, hospitals or uh, the clinics can also generate invoices and send it to the insurance companies, right? So most of them are are the categories where you will see HL7 events happening. Okay, so let us look at these naming conventions in terms of HL7. Now, for our understanding, we know that, I mean, for our general talking purpose, we know that registrations are series of events for registering. Scheduling is nothing but something that is related to uh, schedule of doctor or scheduling an appointment for a patient and so on. But when you want to recognize these categories in terms of HL7, HL7 has given its own naming convention. HL7 doesn't have this name called registration. They call it differently, or the specification calls it differently. Okay, so let us see what they are. So we have hospital. All the registrations are called ADTs. ADT stands for admit, discharge, and transfer. And this is called as message code. This message code will help us to differentiate what are the categories that we have. Okay. Second one is nothing but scheduling. Scheduling in terms of HL7, it is called as SIU. SIU stands for Scheduling Information Unsolicited. Don't worry about the acronyms right now. Just understand the meaning. Down the line, when we take a look at the detailed structure of these messages, we will talk about these acronyms again. Okay, so SIU stands for Scheduling Information Unsolicited. Then you have labs, and these are called as ORM and ORU. ORM stands for Observation Request Message. ORU stands for Observation Result Unsolicited. Okay, and then you have invoice, and these are called as DFT, Detailed Financial Transaction. Okay, so HL7 is naming them and categorizing them this way, and these are called as message codes. Now, I told you that every registration or each of these categories may have many series of events. To name a few of them, registration will have new patient registration and update of existing patient information, right? A new patient can be registered or the existing patient's information can get updated, right? And then you have appointment scheduling. Appointment scheduling might have new appointment, updating of existing appointment, or cancellation of the appointment. Any one of these three are possible, right? And then you have labs, and under labs you have orders and results. Okay, those are the two events that will happen under lab orders. And then under financials, you have only one specific event, which is called as billing. Okay, so these are called as trigger events, event type. You can call it as trigger event or event type. So in the earlier slide, we have seen what are the message categories. They are called as message codes. And within message codes, we have series of trigger events. Okay, but these are our normal naming conventions, what you're seeing on the screen right now. But how does HL7 recognize them? Let's see. So HL7 has its own naming convention called trigger events, and these are called event types, right? So new patient registration is called as A28. Update of existing patient can be represented with the help of A31. Okay. But where do you see this information? How is it helping? When you look at an HL7 message, you should be able to recognize whether that is a registration message. If it is registration message, then you should be able to identify whether it is a new patient registration or update of existing patient. How can you do that? Let's go look back into our HL7 example. So if you look at this example, here in one of the segments called MSH, you have something called ADTA04. Or let's say, let me put it as A28 to be clear. So if you see ADT A28, right? So ADT is nothing but message code, which is telling us it's an event that is related to a category called registration, and it may include admission, discharge, or transfer of a patient. And within that, it is also telling specifically that it's A28, which means this is registration related activity or a category. And within that, we are specifically talking about new patient registration. So by looking at this, I can tell what is the HL7 message that I am looking at, or what is the HL7 message that I am dealing with. Okay. So that's the name of the HL7 message. Every book has its own name, right? So this is the name of the HL7 message, which will help us identify what kind of message we are looking at. All right. So as you can see here, A28 represents new patient registration. A31 represents update of existing patient information. Let's say a patient walks in and says that I want to update my phone number or email address and so on. So that's called update patient information. Okay. Next you have appointment scheduling. So scheduling has three events that we frequently see. Number one is new appointment, which is represented with S12. Update of existing appointment, which is nothing but checking in the patient or updating the status of the existing appointment from check-in to walked in or uh, started. Okay. And then you have S15, which is cancellation of appointment, right? So cancellation of appointment represents canceling an existing appointment. Okay. And then you have orders and results. So orders and results will talk about doctor placing an order and the lab resulting them. So orders is represented as O01 and then results is represented with R01. And finally, you have billing, which is represented with the help of P03. Okay. So these are the series of events that we see in the real time. So we are going to next take a deeper look into each of these message types and understand how the HL7 message is structured. Okay, so we will take a look at each message structure and understand what are the segments that are involved in that structure. And each segment has certain fields, right? And it is impossible to know every field. So I have highlighted few of the important fields. So I'll quickly show that and then we will wrap up today's session and continue in the next session of the message structure. So what we are going to see next is diving into each of these message structures. So here you can see that we have message type called ADTA04 and its segments. So whether it is ADTA04, A28, A31, all of them follow a similar structure. So this is a list of segments that we usually get to see in an ADT message. All right. So once these are done, we will go through each segment in detail, because as an HL7 analyst, you are supposed to know at least the basic segments and what are the fields that are involved in each one of these segments. Okay, so here we have MSH segment in detail. So we'll talk about MSH segment and what is the full form of that segment, what kind of data that segment would usually carry, and then we will take a deeper look at this table structure. This table structure has significance in terms of how do you read the HL7 specification. So here you can see that you have field numbers. There are some properties that are associated with each field. So we'll go ahead and understand what these properties are. We will understand what each field is dedicated for. The green ones that you're seeing highlighted here are the ones that are important. It is these are the data elements that we usually uh, encounter whenever we are going through the HL7 message. Okay, not that others are not important, but we don't tend to use others uh, as we cannot remember everything. The ones that are highlighted in green are something that we need to keep a tab on. Okay. All right. So any questions from anyone based on today's session?
I have a question, but not probably maybe not today's session.
Mm-hmm.
Since we need to practice, do we need to download these videos, or we just leave them like this?
You won't be able to download the videos. You will have online access to those videos. That's all.
Okay, even after the class, we'll still have access?
Yes, yes. You will have access to the videos for 6 months.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from anyone? Perfect. All right. I'm not hearing anything. Thank you so much for joining today's session, and we will connect. So the next session will be from next Tuesday. For all the people who are planning to get enrolled, please go ahead and reach out to Shrinivas. He will go ahead and enroll you, and he will share the updated meeting invite or the link that you need to continue to join. And we'll have continuous sessions from next week as 2 demo sessions are done. From next Tuesday, we'll have the regular sessions, which will start with session 3, which will begin with understanding these message types. Okay, so if you're interested, please go ahead and reach out to Srinivas, and I would recommend to talk to him and get enrolled.
Hi, Dixon.
Hey, Sai.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you.
Uh,
Yes, I tell
Dixon.
me.
Yeah, hi,
Yeah,
Dixon. Good morning.
the original class starts from next Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday morning Indian time, Monday evening Eastern time.
Okay. You provide full recordings up to 6 months, right?
Yes, correct.
We have class. We have class tomorrow, right?
No.
Yeah, Imac, we have tomorrow. For you are from previous batch, right? Yeah, we have tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dixon. Thank you.
Hey, Sai. Yeah, 6 months of access will be given to all the recordings.
Okay.
So you can repeat or learn anytime. And we'll also be creating a WhatsApp group
Okay.
where people can communicate with each other, and any
Okay.
questions you guys can ask me there, and we will, I mean, anyway, you can ask me the questions during the session as well. But in case if you're stuck with something during the day while you repeat or go through the
Okay.
recording, you can
Okay.
definitely reach out to me.
Okay. You will give task on every day, like today's session is done. After you will give some task
Not
like
every
that.
day, not every
Okay.
day, but based on which session we are continuing, which session we are
Okay.
going through, you will get a task after completing each topic.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi Dixon,
Thank you.
good morning.
Hey Bharat, hi.
Yeah. Do we need to learn any JavaScript or any kind of programs?
I will teach you JavaScript as well.
Okay.
So during the training, we'll go through JavaScript. But if you would like to go through it beforehand, you can go through basics of JavaScripting.
Mhm.
And specifically, you need to know SQL. SQL is something that you have to definitely go through before we complete around 14 sessions.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. SQL in the sense you are saying SQL about that.
SQL.
SQL,
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
The SQL, you should learn the basics of SQL, like how to write a select command, update command, delete command, and joins. These are the four topics that you need to be aware of.
Okay. Uh, you will tell about JavaScripting also, right? In the 30-35 sessions.
Yes, yes. JavaScripting I'll teach.
Okay.
SQL
Yeah.
or SQL is something that we don't teach.
Okay.
So you need to go through the basics of SQL by yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Dixon. Thank you.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you.
No worries. All right. Any other questions from anyone?